stereotype is basically where you are criticized about your race, skin color, or ethnicity. You know, something in that genre.
I think a stereotype is either a statement or action that people assume a person of either a certain race or gender is going to commit based off of what they've seen others in that race or gender do.
A lot of people believe of all the people of a certain ethnic group or religion, or practically any kind of group, and it's based on like a certain truth, but not the entire truth. Like it applies to some, but not all.
I think it's the way some people judge a person or persons just by the way that they look, the way they dress, the color of their skin, their background or their ethnicity. They start to judge them on those guidelines.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I mean, in a lot of situations, like I can walk down the street and like the cops will like, they'll usually just go by, but sometimes just turn around and come back and do a double check. I'm like, oh, I don't know, just in a lot of ways, basically. So.
They say Asians are all Asians are smart, but I'm not really that smart, so I guess I could be defining that stereotype, but I think it's just used as a scapegoat.
Yes, when I was younger, depending on how I would dress, people would look at me funny. Back when I was young, I would wear hoodies and baggy pants and the Jordan shoes, basically your typical Oakland misguided youth outfit. So you would walk into different establishments and people would stare at you funny, and I always got good grades. I was a straight A student and never really got into too much trouble. Never was around drugs or any weapons or anything like that, but dressing like that and hanging around with other individuals that looked that way, people assumed that I was one of these people that committed those type of things.
Well, yeah, I've been stereotyped, just because I'm Asian, they think I'm smart, and I I drive like a Honda or a Toyota, It might be true. I do drive, my parents do drive a Toyota and a Honda. I do get good grades, but that ain't true. Wait, of all Asians, you know what I'm saying? Just because it applies to me doesn't mean it applies to everybody. There's some dumb Asians in the world.
Not that I am aware of. If I am stereotyped, I don't mind. I am who I am. I choose who I am. I don't care what other people think about me.
One time or a few, people confused me for being white because of my skin being a little light, and like they pretty much assume that until I start speaking Spanish to them, and they're all like, oh my God, you're Mexican.
I played in the soccer team, the school soccer team, and when people would find out I'm in the soccer team, they'd be like, what, you played soccer? And I would tell them that, yeah. And I guess they'd be pretty surprised because I wear glasses and I don't really look like the athletic type, and maybe it's also because I would get pretty okay grades. I also play tennis. I barely started this year, and people are pretty surprised to find out that I play tennis.
Well, usually when people stereotype me, usually I'm the type of person who just like won't really. I just let it roll off my back. I usually don't care, but if it goes to the point where it's like a kind of towards like a hate crime, then I'll get upset, and then it's like I have to take actions to my own hands or go above their head, to handle the problem.
Well, when I was younger, it was kind of cool in a sense. People assumed that you were bad, or you were, a lot tougher of a guy than you may or may not have been. But as you get older, you kind of realize, that's not a good thing, I guess you could say. It kind of feels bad. People assuming the worst out of you when, you're not bad.
Well, I feel like when they stereotype me, I feel like they think I'm I'm like the same as everyone else,
I don't fit the stereotype because I'm not like people would say I'm not a hoodlum. I don't wear baggy clothes. I have dreads. Like I don't hang out on the corners or whatever. I mean, like, come on, I'm a skater. I skateboard. I'm like on the path to become a Marine. Not a lot of African Americans do that, so I mean that's pretty much how I don't fit the stereotype. But there's a whole lot of different ways you can fit the stereotype, but I don't fit the stereotype.
All Asians eat rice. I eat rice. All Asians are chinky or something.
I can go into Oakland or to Richmond or to, you know, even in the rougher parts of Baltimore and St. Louis, and I could probably blend in pretty well. I could probably blend in with them. Yeah, at the same time, I could probably go to, you know, Cambridge and Stanford and Walnut Creek and stuff and still blend in as well. You know, if anything, the anger. That's the only stereotype that I guess you could say, the angry black man or whatever. I can snap pretty quickly. I can get really angry. But as far as the other ones, the general stuff that, you know, flashy cars and jewelry, things like that, and that's not me at all.
I refer to Mexicans mostly as immigrants, but I don't think other people should be identified as one thing because well, for one, we're all human. We all have the same amount of bones. We all have a face. We all have a beating heart. I don't see why that would be some reason to stereotype anyone.
I'm not really much of a person that eats all the types of food from his culture or race, because just a few things, but I think pretty much it's the music. Like, basically people would expect me to listen to rock music, but I mostly listen to everything, almost everything in Spanish, which I pretty much enjoy and love to dance to.
I think stereotypes happen because people just don't want to take the time to get to know people. It's a lot faster to make a quick judgment than it is to take the time to, you know, really get to know someone. You know, even myself, I'm caught up in stereotypes. Sometimes I can see somebody from far away and assume that I know everything about them without ever meeting them. You know, stereotypes are there, you know, for a reason, I guess you could say. They wouldn't be a stereotype if it wasn't so many of a certain particular interest group doing said topic or said thought.
You know, like, I think stereotype happens because, you know, like, sometimes, you know, people are just being ignorant, you know, sometimes discrimination.
People judge others before actually knowing them, and you never know, like, how that person is until you actually get to know them better, and you could be, like, amazed or surprised pretty much.
No, I don't think it could. Like, it can be controlled for a certain amount of time, but the thing is, it's always going to be there. You know, like, you can put a cap on it, but it's always going to pop off, you know?
No, we live in America. It's freedom of speech. I mean, freedom of speech is enforced, but discrimination, it's hard to catch discrimination because of society.
I guess it could. With education, you can control stereotypes because, you know, people automatically assume things. You know, all it really takes is education, or maybe stepping out of your comfort shell and getting to know said individuals.
I don't think stereotyping can be controlled. People do have the free will to choose not to, but I just don't think it can be controlled by force in any way. I think that it's free will. People have the right to choose or to not choose to stereotype or be stereotyped. It just comes down to the hands of one person.
Nah, I don't do that. Like, I don't play around like that, I guess.
Plenty, lots of times.
All the time. Now this is the best. I like this question. All the time I do it. Even my friends. You know, it's never really done with a malicious intent, and I think a lot of people, I think certain individuals will assume that, you know, stereotypes and joking around about things are done with malicious intent, and you can kind of tell when something is done with bad intention.
Like, you know, like, I don't like, you know, being stereotyped most of the time, you know, and, you know, like treat people the way you want to be treated. So, you know, if I don't want to be stereotyped, you know, then I gotta treat others that don't want to be stereotyped, you know. I gotta treat others the way I want to be treated, you know, the golden rule and things, you know.
I do laugh at some stereotypes because, well, first of all, they are actually kind of funny, but I just wouldn't say it because I still think it's wrong in some form. But yeah, they're still a little bit funny.
Oh my God, yes. So many times. I don't know why, but I get these ideas that, well, I just make fun of them just for fun. I'm not being serious or anything, but I try not to, like, in front of certain groups because I don't want to offend them or anything, but yeah, I do make fun of stereotypes.
I did my best to notice when the call came down the line up to